Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? Welcome back to another Stranger Things recap video. I hope you guys are ready for this one because today I will be reviewing Stranger Things Season 3, which premiered in July of 2019 on Netflix. And this is when I got pretty into a lot more into Stranger Things more. However, I just have my own opinions on things, so hope you guys are ready to talk to you guys about my thoughts. And without further ado, sit back, relax, have some Coca-Cola here, and relax. And let's get started. Okay, so it's right now in June of 1984, a few months before season 2. So the Soviets are trying to attempt to open the New Gate the Upside Down, and that failed. And the leader tells the Soviets they have a year to do this. So we now cut to 1985. So Hawkins is in a pretty rough spot now because due to the massive equivalent of the Starcourt Mall. Oh, and here's a little fun fact for you guys. They filmed the exterior scenes of the Starcourt Mall, and which is known as the Gwynlit Palace Mall. And that, my friends, is located in Duluth, Georgia. And it's actually pretty cool. It's like a little vacant a bit, but it's a cool mall, in my opinion. Anywho, so we see Mike and Elle, they're officially a couple, and they're in a romantic relationship. And Jim Hopper, he isn't into that because like how many dads are to their teenage daughters when they have a boyfriend or romantic partner. He is kind of a little edge a bit, but this is how things are probably gonna be like. And meanwhile, our boy Dustin Henderson came back from Camp Nowhere, and he has a new hat. He looks pretty cool. And shout out to actor Gaten Mazzuro. He does a pretty great actor for Dustin. He kind of has that little personality of him a bit. So yeah, Dustin gets a little surprise visit from Lucas as well as Max. By the way, Lucas and Max are officially dating, by the way. So they decide to set up a makeshift radio tower to contact Dustin's new girlfriend, Susie. And yes, by the way, Lucas and Dustin are the only ones that have girlfriends, and I'm like, dang. Lucky them, in my opinion. I was like, dang. I was just really impressed how they did this. But anyway, Susie doesn't respond, and it takes a bit of a while. But meanwhile, after Dustin's friends leave, there was intercepted some Russian radio transition. And meanwhile, as the boys are having fun at the Starcourt Mall, Will suddenly feels something as if the Mind Flayer may be alive. And meanwhile, a bunch of rats show up at this abandoned mill. And most of them, blow up, and they just... I don't want to get into too much detail because of the duration of this video, but let's say you heat up something too much and it blows up. That's the best way I could describe it to you guys. And that's when they formed just a mass thing. So, meanwhile, Nancy Wheeler and Jonathan Barris, they work as interns at the Hawkins Post. It's a newspaper thing. And I feel bad for what's happened with Nancy here. She is facing work harassment, and it's just really unfortunate, today's world, some guys think it's okay to harass people, when in my opinion, it's completely wrong. So don't do that at all. But anyways, Billy Hargrove, played by Trace Montgomery, who now works as the Hawkins pool lifeguard, which, as you can see on my shirt here, he's on his way to talk or hang out with Karen Wheeler, Mike's mom. However, Billy is just suddenly gets to an accident. He's dragged by this unseen creature inside the mill. In episode 2, Billy's just released from the mill, and he has this vision, to talk to his doppelganger self. And it gets pretty scary, because this is one of the first red flag signs we see. And it's intense. yeah. And I'm like, dang, this is about to get serious here. So, with Billy like under the control of the Mind Flayer, he kidnaps a lifeguard, Heather Holloway, and he brings her to the creature, and now she is like brainwashed, but we'll get to it in a bit. So meanwhile, Nancy and Jonathan, they're like investigating home of Mrs. Driscoll, some elderly woman concerned about rabbit rats eating her fertilizer. And it's pretty intense. Like, this is one of the many red flags I see. And if I saw this in my basement, I wouldn't just try and get rid of the rats as much as I can. I mean, I don't think pest control would handle this. It just won't work, sadly, because this is like something very, very different here. But, so Hopper made some little threat thing to Mike, just tell her not to do this and that. So Mike just lies to Eleven, and so Elle seeks Max's advice, and the two girls form a good friendship, and they go on a crazy shopping spree at the Star Court. And I gotta say, props to Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink for their performances. They did great performances on screen together, and they're just great friends. Props to them. So after when Elle shows up to Mike, she's like dumps him, and it's just great acting from Millie Bobby Brown. And I'm just like, dang, that's how someone's gonna be if they lie to their partner like that. You got roasted there. Sorry, Mike. Can't lie. So, meanwhile, Joyce Byers, Will's mom, has been seeing these magnets fall off the walls. And it's just kind of weird because I don't think a phenomenon like this could try to happen, but there's just so much stuff. And it's just like, she goes to I forgot the name of this science teacher, but he's basically the science teacher for the boys in the Hawkins Middle School. And Hopper, who literally starts to like Joyce, doesn't show up at the date that he planned. So meanwhile, Dustin reunites with Steve Harrington, who works at the new ice cream place called Scoops Ahoy, which is basically a ship's version of an ice cream shop. And I was like pretty impressed with that job. And I was like, man, if I worked there, I'd be pretty good serving ice cream, because it's great. I like it. I gotta say, it's just pretty amazing. And he also me a new character, Robin Buckley, played by Maya Hawke. Pretty good actress. I don't know her a bit before I watched her at the time, but she's later the father of a famous actor, Ethan Hawke. And it's amazing in my opinion. So Robin, who does some good to transmission, could be some kind of code thing. And it's just pretty interesting how like they're trying to figure out what this means. So Elle is like having a sleepover Max, and they've got some good 80s references. So there's like this one reference that shows a picture of this actor from the Karate Kid movies. It's Ralph Macchio. Fun fact, it's like a year after like Karate Kid 1 came out in 1984, so he was up and coming at the upcoming star. So while playing a game of Spin the Bottle, Elle just goes like puts that blindfold on. She like goes like to spy on Billy, and he is like, it just becomes something really strange was up with him. So Heather went missing. Nancy and Jonathan also find reports of missing fertilizer and strange behavior of rats across the town, and they discover Miss Driscoll has been eating fertilizer. Like, she is now completely brainwashed, and it is shocking. Like, the first time I saw that on my TV, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're really going all Evil Dead on this one. And yeah, I was shockingly right. So Will attempts to play Dungeons and Dragons again with Lucas and Mike, but it does not go well, and they have a big argument. Will has a complete meltdown and he goes emotionally, destroys Castle Byers, that massive wooden structure home. And I'm like, dang. I would comfort Will Byers because he does not deserve to be like treated alone. I mean, sure, we are all growing up as usual, but it's best not to forget your friends. And and props to Noah Schnapp for his like acting. Bro deserved a best acting performance of the Oscars. So Robin just decoded the Russian communication, which leads to like a shipping equipment, like, and it just goes like this underground elevator, and it gets pretty intense in my opinion. And I was like, okay, where are we going from here? And so Robin, Steve, and Dustin they decide to they gotta go in this elevator, try to figure out a way. So Joyce managed to convince Hopper that the deterioration stems from electronic magnets that abandoned Hawkins' lab. As they investigate, Hopper is then attacked by another villain, and his name is Grigory. He's like a Russian soldier, and it ends up a pretty brutal fight with Hopper being knocked out. So meanwhile, Ella and Max, they track down Billy and Heather at the healer's house and act like everything's fine, and I can really tell of the many red flags I see. Someone who's acting pretty nice and innocent, despite their background, is like many red flags. And that's what I would see if I was in this episode. Like, okay, something is really wrong here. And it turns out I was right, because Billy and Heather subdued their parents, and at the same time, Will gets that little thing in his neck, and he just realizes, oh no, the Mind Flayer is back. And yep, and that's exactly what happened. So Billy and Heather managed to bring their parents to Mill, where they too are possessed by the Mind Flayer. And now he is, not only is he in the real world, but he's like became a giant like form of himself, like made out of like a bunch of. He is made out of like a bunch of like melted stuff. I don't want to get too much, but imagine it's like a giant sculpture kind of thing. All lava-ish. You probably get it. Okay? Anyway, back to my video. So Hopper just recalls Georgi meeting with the town mayor, Larry Klein. So he and Joyce force Clean to reveal the Starcourt Mall is actually a Russian fund for buying abandoned properties across Hawkins, which is super illegal, by the way. And it's just one of the main charges that he would face, this mayor. I'm just, in my opinion. So meanwhile, Steve, Dustin, Robin, alongside Lucas's sister, Erica, who appeared in last season, it's just like they decide to like go intercept the elevator thing and just check out this secret Russian base underneath the mall. So meanwhile, Nancy John and Fire Buffy the boss, who is Heather's dad, for his quote harassing Miss Driscoll, and this quickly gets out of hand. This quickly gets out of hand so much because he's possessed by the Mind Flayer, and is along with like Miss Driscoll's now all full possessed, and Will is just talking about how he still has a connection to Mind Flayer, to Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Max. They plan to trap him with the pool sauna to confirm he's like really possessed, but Billy managed to escape. He almost unalives Elle. Elle uses her powers to seduce him. Billy returns to Mill, where there are like dozens of people. So it's not just one people. It's like almost the entire town. And it's shocking. And I'm like that. That is how shocked I am of what I see. Anyway, so Hopper and Joyce are now searching the banned properties to like discover a hidden laboratory. So Georgi arrives to unalive them, and they manage to escape with a hostage, with a Russian scientist named Alexei, as they escape in their car. So Steve, Dustin, Robin, and Eric arrive in the Russian unlab underneath Starcourt. The Hive soldiers unloading crates the elevator. And they just find a whole bunch of stuff. It's like the Russian lab's like an underground thing. It's just shocking. Imagine one day you find something secret and no one else told you. I was shocked in my opinion. So they tried to discover. So yeah, they go to the communications room where they see a bunch of scientists attempting to reopen the gate. Since Alexei doesn't know how to speak English, Hopper and Joyce go to Murray, the only Russian speaker they know, to translate. And yeah, it's a pretty good montage. Like, the actors who do these characters are pretty great, especially David Harbour as Jim Hopper. He does pretty good acting. I'm like, ha 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 ha. Anywho, Nancy John regroup with Mike, Lucas, Al, Max, and Will as they theorize Billy and Driscoll are both possessed by the Mind Flayer, who use them to flay other people to control their body. So they all visit Miss Driscoll at the hospital, learn about more, but she's gone, and they are now attacked by Tom and Bruce, who are part of the Flayed, or again, Mask. They're part of the Flayed group. So after Jonathan and Nancy unalive them, their bodies turn into like some spilled stuff. I don't want to get into too much detail. They just turn into like a mini version of the Mind Flayer. Not like a small one, about like the size of a table here. Thankfully, Elle manages to take down this monster, and they manage to weak a part of the Mind Flayer, just escapes the mill, and it's where it hides. So, meanwhile, Steve and Robin get captured. They get interrogated brutally, and this is probably so great. It's pretty shocking how this is, and it's just, I'm like, oh my goodness. So, thankfully, Dustin and Erica managed to help them escape, but Steve and Robin, they're like on the edge a bit. Man, it's just pretty shocking, these funny moments, how how the characters acted. I'm like, dang, these characters are really great. So anyways, with Murray translating, Hopper and Lexi hold Alexei hostage, forcing to reveal the Russians are attempting to access the Upside Down, and they're opening a portal beneath Starcourt. So Hopper calls Dr. Owens, from Season 2 to warn you of Scarlet's threat, but Joyce insists they return to Hawkins to meet, fearing that their kids may be involved. So meanwhile, Gorgie corners Kane at the Hawkins Independence Day Fair to make step efforts to find Hopper. So meanwhile, the group is at Hopper's cabin. Elle uses her powers to locate Billy. And yeah, Billy just managed to access Billy's trouble past. And it's pretty shocking in my opinion how it's done. Kind of feel bad for Billy, in my opinion. However, after Billy sensed Elle, he traps her like this little thing, a void thing, and so Billy just explains that the Mind Flayer knows where she is. They plans to unalive her, blame her for closing the gate. So after this taunting speech to Billy, the townspeople that were controlled go to the mill where they complete the transformation of Florida Mind Flayer. And it's shocking, it's scary, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is scary. And it's really shocking how big this Mind Flayer is. So he was originally about this size at this table. Now, he's about as size as basically a whole showroom building, like in your studio. Anyways, Elle and the others determine the Mind Flayer's coming first, since he's the one who previously closed the gate, thus is the only threat. So Will says the Mind Flayer is approaching. So this leads to an all-out battle in the cabin. Pretty brutal, by the way. And I just impressed, it's interesting how it's done. So the Mind Flayer, so Elle gets pretty injured, and it's just like one of those shocking things. So the group gets a small convenience store to like help her out, and it's just yeah, they have Mike and Elle have a good heart-to-heart conversation. Elle is just pretty wounded, but later it gets pretty worse. So after when Dustin, Erica, Robin and Robin and Steve escape the Russian base, they hide out in the movie theater where they're watching none other than my favorite movie of the 1980s, Back to the Future. After 1987, after 1985, to where part 2 come out and then part 3 in the following year. I hope the gang will be alive to see that entire Back to the Future franchise. It'll be great. So meanwhile, Robin and Steve, they talk a bit, they hang out in the bathroom a bit. Steve he likes her, but Robin tells her, hey, I'm not into guys like you. I'm into something else. And you guys probably guess what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get too much, but this is like my point. So, yeah. So Hopper's group makes their way to the fairgrounds to find the kids. So, where they're spotted by Clean, who alerts the Russians. As Alexi's trying to have a good time with people, unfortunately, Grigory unalives Alexei in front of Murray, and sadly, he passes away. So yeah, after some pretty brutal fights with some Russians, the gang makes it back to start Cornwallis. Meanwhile, Elle is exhausted in pain. She collapsed from her wound, and her wound got pretty bad. It's like the small creature thing. She gets the piece out of her body, but it's at the cost of her powers. So which means she can't do powers anymore, and it's just annoying. So the group decides in order to stop the Mind Flayer, they have to go underground the base. They have to close the gate, so it just stops the Mind Flayer, saving Hawkins. So Joyce, Murray, and Hopper go underground to go do that plan. So while the team uses some fireworks to attack the Mind Flayer, which is grown massive size, attacking the base. It's pretty intense. And it's just shocking how amazing how they done this choreography. I'm impressed how they do it. So when Billy manages to subdue Elle, he corners him. Elle manages to free Billy from his mind control, and meanwhile, Hopper has a huge fight with Georgi, and he finally unalives him. He's realizing he's trapped in the machine. They decide Joyce had turned the keys thing, which just closed the gate, but Hopper's nowhere just to be seen. And Joyce thinks he may be unalived, but as we see in the next season, you'll see what happens. I don't want to get too much, but allow me to continue. So, thanks to this, the Mind Flayer's physical body just unalives, but sadly, Billy is unalived by the Mind Flayer, and he passes away in Max's arms. So, it's been 3 months, and the deaths are covered up, the Dark Star Corps is dismantled, and Mayor Clean is arrested, and he's disgraced. He's arrested. So, the Byers family, along with still Power 7, they prepare to move out of Hawkins. They're going to a new city. So Mike and Elle manage to confess their feelings for each other, and they plan to meet around Thanksgiving. Yeah, we all know what happens next. So meanwhile, after when everyone leaves, in Kamachani, some Russian guards are instructed to feed a prisoner, but not the American, which means Hopper may be alive. And the Russians have their own captive Demogorgon, which sets the ground up for season 4. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed my talk of Stranger Things season 3. This was an okay of a season. Had some moments, but some of it felt a bit out of hand. But I'm looking forward to how things will be for season 4. and it'll be great. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao.